Hi, everybody. We are back with another sponsor. We are so happy to have Sculpey sponsoring the Bellicon 2025 event again this year. And today we have Sydney Holt, one of their designers, who is going to share a project with you. We will also be doing a giveaway at the end of her presentation. Sculpey is doing 4 giveaways, and they are $100 value packages that will be sent to the winner. And you do have to be registered for Bellicon 2025 to enter. But yeah, we're excited. You don't have to be here live to win. So we're keeping track of everything. And I'm going to bring Sydney in, and I will ask questions in case there's any questions. I'll let her know and she will answer them. Okay, Sydney.
Okay, well, I've worked for Sculpey. Gosh, my youngest son is 35, so I've worked for them for 35 years. And it's been wonderful. I got to travel all over the world and teach and talk about Sculpey, and I never get tired of it. I always find new things to do with it. And I kind of have given myself the crown of being the queen of stupid simple. Instead of showing you something and say, now this is going to take you 5 hours to make, I'm like, hey, guess what? You make this in 20 minutes and bake it, you know. Again, single mom, full-time job as I was doing this. So everything had to be quick and easy. It's basically really simple what you need. And I'm going to show you today with my favorite clay, which is souffle. And I love souffle for a number of reasons. I'm a surface treatment person, basically. And this surface, oh my gosh, I can use pens, pencils, paints, or just use it as it is. It has a suede-like surface to it. Okay, so really what you need to start a polymer clay is you need something to work on. A lot of us work on tiles. You need a blade, whether it's an X-Acto blade for some things, or we have these that are called clay blades, and you can get these in a number of different shapes and sizes. Like this right here, you can see these are all curved blades and things in there to make, these were actually, used for potato chips, Ripple potato chips, and now we've taken those over too. And then, of course, something to make the clay flat. This is an acrylic roller. You can use a water glass. We all have pasta machines that we've redesignated to use for clay. And then as you get into it, like mine, I broke my arm. First thing I did was I bought the motor and the foot pedal, which is a sewing machine foot pedal, so I could run my pasta machine. I like to work on index cards a lot. And because I make a lot of earrings, I really like to use these that have the grid on there because I can line up to put my holes in and make sure everything hangs well. But first of all, I'm going to show you how easy this clay is to work. Where's my blade? Boy, I scrubbed to get my blade clean for you too. It was pretty dirty. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to just cut some of this off. I tend to cut it this way. Whoop. This way. But you can cut it any way you want to. And this clay is just so nice and soft to use. Yay. Okay, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your pieces and knead them in your hand just a little bit, get them workable. And then I'm going to show you Ball Rolling 101 is taught to me by a group of 10-year-old boys in my garage studio. And it was pretty amazing. Okay, so see, I've just worked this just a little bit. Now I'm going to put this in my hands, and when you roll a round ball, you want to cup your hands. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera. You want to cup your hands when you roll it. So let me take it out here and roll it for you. And see, you start getting a nice round ball. Now you can leave it like that, but if you want to make it more of an elliptical side, you flatten your hand, and I'm going to roll now on the outside edges of my palm here, right around in here. So let me do that real quick over here where I won't hit the camera. And you see it starts to get elongated that way. And then if you wanted to make this shape, all you would need to do is take your needle tool, which most of us use. You can get an actual needle tool to do this, or you use a large gauge sewing needle and just kind of twist your hole through and then fire it. I actually put my holes in my pieces after they're baked using a little hand drill from my son builds models. Because I'm fickle, I may change what I want to do with it. So just to show you, let me take this off now. These are some of the wonderful things you can do also with cutters. If you don't want to make your shapes yourself, I made all these with cutters. And look at the beautiful colors in here too. These are all souffle. So you can use your cutters as well. And you'll notice if you look in the clay aisles, they have tons and tons of sets of cutters. And a lot of times we use some of the resin ones too. So you can make all kinds of wonderful things just by rolling out your clay. Rolling out your clay and using cutters. Now on this tray, these are some of the beautiful colors in souffle. There we go. Had it and it went away. There we go. And you can easily mix your colors and make beautiful custom colors as well. And you'll notice, let me see if I can find it on one of these. I should have on here my little recipe, because for, 20 years, I think I've done something called New Color Tuesday for Sculpey, where I mix colors, and I often write my little recipes on here. And these are my pieces that are left over from New Color Tuesday. So see, these were my little mixes that I did, and I cut out my shape for New Color Tuesday, and I saved these, and I fired them together and made these necklaces. And I wore these to an event where there were some very high-class people, and they're like, "Oh, this is stunning." I didn't want to tell them really this was my scrap, but I thought it was kind of fun. Look at how flexible this is. It's super light and super flexible, really comfortable to wear. And of course, you can use, this is cutters over here. It's all backwards to me, sorry. You can use any shape cutters and make pieces like these. And this has been fired. And then I folded them and put them together. And people will, actually, my friend who's here was arguing with me. She thought this was leather. And I was like, nope, it's clay. And I get that a lot. Oh, there goes that. So
It
let
is
me show you.
amazing how soft and flexible it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Which makes it really good for doing things like earrings where you don't want it really banging around and stuff. So the thinner it is, the more flexible it is. And of course, these are round balls, and you know how to do that now. Cup your hands. These were little balls that were flattened. And these are, I call, oh my God, it just went out of my head. Well, anyway, I'll think of it. And I make them by taking a round ball, putting it on, this is a size 0 double pointed knitting needle, and rolling it out like this piece right here. Where are you? There. This came off the knitting needle, and then I cut them into pieces and string them. And it's so fun. Actually, I think my bracelets, there's my bracelets that I wear all the time. I swim in these. I shower in them, I sleep in them, and it's fine. So these are really fun to make. And this is one that I did for Sculpey where I added some freshwater pearls in with it as well. Totally fun things to make. This is a good kind of project with kids. You'll have to do the slicing for them, but depending on the age of the kids, they're fun to string up together. I live at the beach, so adding shells and things in with these guys are just really fun to do. It's a fun way to use up your scrap clay. Now, I think I said I'm queen of surface treatments. And these are some of the surface treatments that I've done. These pieces I dug out, these are ones that I actually did for, I used to do a lot of daytime craft TV. They called me the Lucy of daytime craft TV. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. But this is what I call my faux raku. And this is just black clay. And then I took a substance called Pearlax, which is a very fine mica powder, and you kind of dot it onto the clay and then tear the pieces up and put them onto your backing piece, see? And then fire it. And then you have these wonderful colors. This is traditional raku colors here, the blues and greens. And then I also did a copper version. And this guy right here has a little bit, if I can get it to focus on that. See that teal in there that looks kind of like verdigris? That's one of my son's model paints that I've used in there. But otherwise, I would use those 59-cent craft paints that are real chalky looking anyway. And after it's fired, you can put those on and wipe it off and get a beautiful looking verdigris on there as well. So this is what I call my faux raku. Totally fun to do. Here you go, ma'am. And next up,
Sydney, can you lift up the faux raku a little closer
yeah,
to your camera so they can get a better look at it? I mean,
sure.
it is stunning. I have done that myself. I know it's beautiful.
Yeah. There you go. How's that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. They are
And
stunning.
doing it in, the traditional colors with the Pearlax. And this is a great project when you feel like doing something, but you don't really want to have to think about, okay, plan out your steps. You just get it, your thin sheet of black souffle, dot on some of your powders, tear them up, put them onto another sheet, and you go, I meant to do that. And if you want to, you can even take a piece of coarse sandpaper and press onto the top to kind of give it that bubble look that raku will have. And I really like the copper ones too a lot, the copper version.
Yeah,
And you can
they're
invent your own version if you want to. My other favorite surface treatment to do is silk screen. And these guys, and it's so fun what you can do. Here's the same silk screen. This is, I think, a Sculpey silk screen. And this one is the plain silk screen, screened with gold acrylic paint onto turnip, I think it is, souffle. So that's beautiful on its own. But then after it's fired, a lot of times I will go in and color them with my alcohol ink pens and just change the look of it completely. So if I put these all in my hand, you can see how different just using those pens on there creates, and of course the background color of the clay as well. But it's just phenomenal what you can do with that. And I'll show you some more of that. Here's another one that is a silk screen. And after I screened it on there, then I just took a dotting tool and my favorite color craft paint, which is like a Baja blue, and went through and just added some dots in there. And I tell people, this is a really great way that you can take a store purchased silk screen and make it your own by adding in these little details on your own. And let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, here's another, this one. I screened on there, and then after it was fired, I took a micron black ink pen and just outlined them. And the outlines are not straight on there, but that doesn't matter because it makes it look like it's been hand done. And it's another way to just change the look of it. And so this is another beautiful silk screen. And I just took a jelly plate underneath, and I just took a kid's craft paintbrush and just swirled little bits of the paint on there. Again, my Baja blue and a green. And then jelly printed the sheet of clay. And then I took the silk screen with gold paint and silk screened over it. And it gives you this lush, almost like an upholstery fabric type look, like a silk look on there that is just gorgeous. And I use a jelly plate a lot. In fact, I was just using it today. I was showing my friend the project I'm doing for Sculpey to do these kind of things. And let me see what else I have here. Oh, this is another one. Yes.
Somebody's wondering if the clay shrinks at all.
No.
I didn't
Less
think
than 2%.
Yep.
Less than 2%. Here's another one that I've done the same way. Again, you know, I use that Baja Blue all the time. And is there something else here? Oh, I even take my scrap pieces of my silk screen and cut them up and then redo a little collage with them. And they always turn out totally fun. I'm kind of a mid-century modern girl, so I'm totally into doing this. This piece right here is it's my version of Moku Megani. And that's just like 3 layers, thin layers of clay. And then I take my ball styluses, press into it, and then slice off carefully the top layers. Very easy to do. There's lots of different ways of doing the Moku Megani. And these are just pieces cut out and put onto the back piece here to edge it. Lots of different ways to do the mokus. Okay, let me hand that one off. Now,
so Isabel is wondering if you use silk screen or a jelly plate. Alcohol inks before or after the clay has been baked?
It depends. Sometimes I do alcohol inks after, but usually I do the alcohol inks before. And the silk screens and the jelly plates, I can't. Yeah, I would say I almost always do those before I bake it, before I fire it. And like I said, I use very inexpensive craft paints usually, and you can test the colors. In fact, I pulled out a green. Yesterday, I was looking for a green, and I put a little tag on top that says Bakes Blue. And that was the first one I had seen that had done that. So these pieces are done with black and white laser print transfers. I have a little black and white laser printer, and sometimes I use my photographs. I'm a pro photographer, and sometimes I go into Photoshop and create very simple little patterns to use. And you can see these guys. These we did when my boys were little, and these were their drawings that I printed out and we transferred to the clay. And then after we fired it, they took them and colored them. And all my switch plates are clay covered. And for that, you just take one of those nice smooth metal switch plates, cover it with clay, do whatever you want to on it, bake it. Once it's cured and cooled, you just pop it off. And I just put these guys up on the wall. Look at how flexible they are. So they're nice and soft. Your kids can hit them, you know, and they're not going to break them. Really cool. Okay, let me get those guys out of the way. And if you're wondering what I mean about a transfer, this is a sheet of my transfer, okay? So these are my tikis that I've printed out. And again, I just have a little $99, Brother laser, black and white laser printer that I print these on. And my transfers, I do with either rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer. That's what creates the transfer of the ink to the clay. And you can do amazing things with this. This is a bracelet. This one, I actually colored pencil on the transfer, and the colored pencil transferred along with the transfer. And then after, which I didn't think it would do, but I wanted to try. And then afterwards, if you want it, you know, because this is souffle, you could add a little bit more on there as well. And
so, I have a question. You put the transfer down onto the clay and then put the alcohol, rubbing alcohol on the back of it?
Yes. So you cut your transfer to the size you're going to use. You put it face down onto the clay, and then you use your rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer, and you cover it the whole sheet quickly. And then if you have a brush or a roller or something, I use those silicone wedge brushes to take the excess off, and then you let it sit, and you let it, the paper will turn white again, and then you apply another layer of it, let it turn white, and then usually, and that depends on, you know, the temperature, the humidity and everything. And then usually the third time you put it on, you can pull the paper up and you'll have a beautiful transfer. I
Nice.
have a PowerPoint on doing transfers that I have titled Herding Cats, because there are good days and there are bad days with transfers, and it makes no sense why.
As is such in crafting, yes.
Yes, right? Here's another one here. And this one I've actually, the color that you see on there is pan pastels that I scraped on before I applied the transfer. I just kind of scraped some onto my clay and then did the transfer. I didn't think that would work, but it did. Here's some of the tikis that you just saw. I love tikis. Live in Southern California, lots of tikis here. This one is from a photograph of an old door at a California mission. And there is some 2 layers of color underneath this as well. And I was so surprised that all the detail in that wood grain came out as well. And then I wasn't, it's like, okay, what else can I do with these? Well, what I found is that I can actually sculpt the transfers. So this is really easy, because once I have the transfer on there, what I do is I put little balls of scrap clay underneath the pieces that I want to stand up. And then I use my tools to just kind of push down around and roll. And then I add a backing piece on. But you can see this has some pan pastels on the shells. And after it was fired, I decided I wanted the water to look a little blue. So I added a little paint on there. And this one is done the same way. This is a pendant.
Can you
And
hold
it's,
that a little closer?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're all beautiful.
So that's a really fun thing to do. It's like, hey, I want to do transfers, but let me try something different here. Works really nice with flowers too. I photograph a lot of flowers. Okay.
Mary is wondering if you sell any of your pieces.
I don't actively sell my pieces. Sometimes, if I post something and somebody says, oh, I really like that, oftentimes I just kind of go, well, my friends know I have a tray in my living room of finished earrings. They can come dig through anytime they want to. But it's like, if somebody really wants something, I'll talk to them about it. Yeah.
Okay. That
And
makes
so,
sense.
yeah, other things that I love to do. Here's some of my pencils here. Pencils, soft leaded pencils especially, work really nicely on clay, on souffle. Let me grab one that I can see. There we go. And I can take this, and this is baked clay, cured clay, and the pencil just goes on like butter. It's just like a paper surface. So if you like using colored pencils, you can do all kinds of fun things with these. And then these guys right here. And since I'm an old print retoucher, my pencils are Derwent pens, and then these are Derwent watercolors. I couldn't believe that I could actually watercolor onto the clay.
Do you
But
seal it with something afterwards?
no, I don't.
Okay.
And I was just amazed. And you can do it before baking, and you can do it after baking, whichever way you want to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this actually works. The hard part is trying to make 2 that look the same if you're doing earrings. That's the hard part for me, doing the mirror image. And then these right here, I watercolored on these scraps of clay and then did a partial transfer on it as well. I like grungy things, so you're going to see a lot of, torn edges and grungy things with me. And these beautiful, these colors are just so. These are the tints that Sculpey has come out with that I use on the surface of the clay. And you do this before you fire it, and then you fire them, and you just have these super intense colors that I absolutely love. But there's all kinds of things you can try to, on the surface of these things. Foils work. all kinds of fun stuff. What else do I have down here? Oh, I know what I was going to show you. This is a silk screen. This one has been trashed. I probably used it in a class somewhere. And silk screens you can buy pre-made. There's also a company that you can make your own, and they have a right side and a wrong side. This is the side that goes against the emulsion. It's smooth. And this side that you can kind of feel the silk part, that's the top of your silk screen. So you put your screen down on your unbaked clay and a little bit of paint and roll it on. Again, I use those. Let me get that real quick. I should have had one of these out. I like to use these kind of brushes for my silk screens and things. And this just goes, you just scrape off the excess paint, peel this up, throw it into a bin of water right away and wash it. And by the time you have that washed, then your paint is probably dry on your pieces and you can start cutting out your pieces. So of course you can use one color, you can use 2, 3 colors, whatever you want with silk screens. They're amazing and so fun to do. Any questions on those?
I think they are all just in awe of your talent.
Well, wait, here comes the really good stuff. No, I'm teasing. So these pieces, some of these are what we call show pieces, right? Back when we would go to the big hobby shows, we would always have a couple show pieces that we would never wear anywhere in public normally, but we would wear them at the shows, right? And some of these pieces, I'm retired from UC San Diego, and the Retiree Association had a little cabinet for people to put their hobbies in. And they asked me to bring some of my pieces. So I did. And a couple of these pieces were in there. And then they disappeared from there. And I go, where did they go? And they go, well, the library asked to have them on display there. And they had them for like 4 years. And I finally said, can I please have my pieces back? And they're, oh, do we have to? And I'm like, yes. But I just want to show you, again, this was actually scrap clay, and I did a little stamp on it. And then after it was fired, I took my son's modeling paints, and I'll show you those in a sec, and put down into the cracks to create these earrings. And these are also stamped earrings. Come here. There we go. This was a stamped earring, and once it was fired, I just took like a stain and wiped across the top of them. And what I'm talking about, these are the paints I'm talking about. My son does these very intricate models that he paints. So this is my verdigris color that I use, and it turns chalky afterwards. Cheap craft paint does the same thing in the bottle, just about. And then this is one of the stains. It's a very thin, you could dilute almost like a watercolor to use to do it as well. And this guy I made when souffle first came out, and I was testing it to see how thin you could get it and how pieces would work. And it's backed on some burlap here. And these pieces, this thing has been around a lot of places. It's still flexible, but it's just fun kind of just working things in and using a little bit of paints and stuff. Just simple little things add up. And then this guy was definitely when souffle first came out, and I wanted to test it. So this is extruded clay. The brown part, the cowboy part, is extruded clay. And then I built these pieces to go into it. So this is the back. And to show you how dramatic you could do surface treatments with this, this is the front.
Oh my. Amazing.
So I've just used some paint, some of my son's Citadel, some regular craft paints and things, a little bit of wire in here to make some curlicues, These were made with the Sculpey cutters in the graduated sizes, the teardrop. And I just stacked them up. And these other pieces are probably, these are the cutters. And this I just kind of made by hand, just some, little barnacle thing to put in there. And this is one of the pieces that was in the library forever too. You can see this whole thing is flexible.
That's what's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it makes it more comfortable, and it's super light. Feel how light this is. Oh,
Very light.
Yeah,
yeah,
clay's not heavy. Yeah.
yeah. The chain is the heaviest part of this. Yeah, this big chain back here is what makes it heavy. So that's another great thing about it, is you don't have to have a lot of weight in the pieces. This one here, I have
So
like stacked.
do you use a dedicated oven?
I do.
Okay.
Because I like to have my oven out here in the garage with me. So while I'm working, I can keep an eye on it. And I just have a toaster oven. I think that's an Oster toaster oven out here that I've used for probably 20 years. But bigger pieces, I would use my oven in the kitchen. And once the clay was baked, I'd turn it up and bake the kids cookies.
Yeah. I mean, I have done big pieces in my home oven too.
Yeah, I know. When you do the big pieces, don't you pace back and forth, like waiting for it? It's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And when I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
my big, that raku that I showed you, that simple raku, colorful raku, those pieces, those are really neat to do on inexpensive glass vases, where you just take the black souffle, it's called poppy seed, very thin, and you put your no, it's way back in the stacks. You put your Pearlex colors onto it in the raku colors, the green, the blue, a little bit of copper, just kind of finger paint them on, and then tear those pieces and collage them onto the vase. And yeah.
I have one of those in my studio that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
So this is
beautiful.
the raku. Yeah.
So
See,
somebody
so
is
that's the back and this is
asking,
the front.
somebody's asking, and it depends upon the piece, what temperature you fire the clay at and how long does it take to bake?
I always fire it at 275. It's about, for my stuff, because I'm mostly making jewelry, I do 275 for 30 minutes, just like the package says. If I'm doing bigger pieces, thicker pieces, I go a little longer. I don't go less than that.
Okay.
And if I'm baking on glass, like the vases and stuff, I turn the oven off and I do not open the oven door. I let it cool down in the oven. Not for the clay, for the glass.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I do that. I use a lot of things for shaping. I have a lot of bowls that I use for shaping, to make little bowls. I collect cardboard tubing. I have a little stack of all this different diameter cardboard tubing up there, because I use that to make bracelets on. And yeah, I have dowels, pieces of wooden dowel in different diameters that I use a lot for things. It's funny, the kind of things that we can pick up and go, oh, I could use this, which is how we started. We just went around and found things around the house to use. And oh, I know, I'll show you. This is my tool that I use to put the holes in my earrings. And I tend to be a fickle little brat. So I put my holes in my earrings after they're fired, because I might change my mind on how I'm going to use them. And so this is again from my son's gaming stuff, but you can find these in on Amazon and stuff, and all different kinds. And this is the tool. I have these little tiny drill bits here, but here's the important part I wanted to show you. I think this is kind of fiendishly clever of me. I have a block of wood, right?
Yeah.
And this is index cards that have the grid surface on it, like a graphing index card. And what that does is now I can take my piece and line up those holes, especially if I'm doing, get it straight on here by using the grid. And that way, if I'm doing a hole at the top and a hole at the bottom for something to hang, I make sure that I'm getting that pattern straight and hung straight. It makes it so much easier when you're doing multi-component things to do that. And even if I'm not doing multi-components, I will still put a piece down there and line it up before I drill my hole in. And like I said, I'm fickle. That's why I don't put my holes in to begin with, because I may change how I'm going to use that piece.
But that's a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Sculpey got onto that. They're like, what are you using? I go, I use graphene. It's graphene index paper, index cards. You can buy it. And I said, it works so good to help line up your earrings or your pieces that you need to put holes in. And then I also use it when I need to cut bands of clay. I use it for that as well to help me cut straight. Yeah. Yeah. So graphene paper is really awesome. And I keep everything in here. I'm so neat about this because my drill bits are so tiny. But yeah, these hand drills come in really handy. The other thing I can tell you, I learned this years ago at a bead show. If you're putting together jewelry components, you need to have 2 pairs of the same pliers to open and close the jump rings. It makes such a difference. It's unbelievable because I was using 2 different pairs of pliers. And when I saw this gal who was actually making, what is that called when you make your wire links and stuff? There's a word for that. I forget.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. She said, no, you always have to have two pair of the same pliers, because otherwise you're getting torque differently and stuff, and it can damage the wire. Oh boy, is that a game changer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The other thing that is a huge game changer for me is I have a label maker, and my cabinets and drawers are labeled.
Yes.
I'm standing here, I see findings, brushes, power tools, silk screen, stencils, texture molds, and templates. Over here it says souffle, souffle, primo, primo. I don't reinvent the wheel every time I clean my studio up. And people walk in here and they're like, how can you even find anything in here? And I go, are you kidding? I know where everything is in here.
Right. And I have a label maker too. It is a very good friend.
The other thing that because I write art, tutorials all the time, my boxes of, where is it? There we go. My boxes of like jump rings, because I want to make sure I'm accurate when I show people. So I even have those labeled.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes that's going to make or break your design, is whether or not you have, the correct thing on that the person used to make it move correctly or hang correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's 2 of the things I love.
So
Oh
a
yeah,
question, do you
yeah.
make the clay pieces a specific size when you're making bracelets?
It depends. You can get these bracelet blanks, like this is on a brass blank. If you're making this kind, if you're making these kind, these are on elastic.
Yeah.
And I tie it off and I leave a couple little ones down here, to hang. And it's also, if I lose any pieces, I can put them back on. But I have bags and stacks of these cut up. So that's how I do these. And these guys are also clay. These are liquid Sculpey that I used in a resin mold. And they're flexible too.
Liquid Sculpey is amazing.
Liquid Sculpey is amazing. Once you decide you're not afraid of it,
Right.
it's really amazing. And especially the clear one. because a lot of times on some of my pieces, that one bracelet that I had colored, you can put the clear on, kind of paint a thin layer on, and take a heat gun and start heating it. And all of a sudden, you're going to see a little puff of smoke, and that clear is going to go glossy for you. You just see the gloss just all of a sudden come up on that opaque surface. And it's like, oh my God, it's like magic every time. I always squeal. And I use the Sculpey glaze on these guys because this is Pearl X, so that needs to be sealed because it's a powder.
Right.
And I just put a very, very thin layer on there. I don't overdo it. I don't do a lot of things in gloss. Like these guys don't have anything on them. But, people are like, well, why don't you put a glaze on that to protect that paint? And I go, why would I put a layer of paint over paint to protect it? So,
yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
there's so little paint on here.
Somebody's asking, the bracelet blank is what she was referring to about about, do you make the clay pieces a specific size when you're using a bracelet blank?
Well, it depends on the blank. Like these guys were, I could measure it using my graphing paper to see how wide this was and trim this on the graphing paper. And then I oftentimes will just leave a little bit on there, and I can take my blade and just come along here and straighten it up.
And clean it
because
up.
This has got a little bit of a channel in it. But like these guys, no, I don't have a specific size when I do these. I can make them big, small. I can make them whatever I want.
Okay.
Whatever I feel like I'm going to want to cut up.
So,
see this guy? I got to show you this. I thought this was fiendishly clever. See my loop up here for this? I pre-baked these. This is extruded clay, rolled out clay, and I put them together and I fold it over so it just touches, and I pre-bake those. And then I can take that and pull it onto this piece, pop that up and slide it on there and glue this to the back. And now I have a finding on there, but it's not going to come apart. I could probably still lift that if I wanted to. And it just makes a nice clean little loop there.
Yeah, and you don't need a silver finding or gold or anything because it's all part of the clay. It's one piece.
It's all part of the clay. Beautiful. This one's done the same way, see? And do I have one of the others? Does this have one on? No, I have a way to do it on these too, but I don't have one out here, I don't think. But I did have one. I don't know where it went to. Basically, what I do is, this is made on a hollow bead maker. Oh, let me get that, because that's one of my favorite tools. This is a Sculpey product. It's called a hollow bead maker. And I love this because obviously, you can make your pieces like this on it, or you can bake things on the inside here. But what I especially love using it for is baking between the bumps to make curved pieces like leaves and things.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I do that a lot with these. And I also use them when I'm doing these guys. I'll put my colors in here too to kind of keep them. Yeah, so I can use them that way. Yeah. I mean, I find so many uses for these things. It's not even funny. I bake, where's some of my bowls? I got some of those around here somewhere. A lot of times I'll use them for my bowls as well. But yeah, these guys are great. And these guys sit right next to my oven, ready to go. That's one of my favorite tools. Are there any other questions?
No, there's not any other questions. Everybody is loving what you're doing. But we are going to pick a winner.
Oh, yay.
I will come back in, and Lisa, who is the queen of giveaways, is going to Lisa, I think you're on silent, on mute. So
I love that title though.
yeah, the queen, because she is the queen of stamping. So
This is true.
we have 4 giveaways from Sculpey, and they're each valued at $100 about retail. And we're going to do one each day of the event, and you have to be registered for the event to enter. You do not have to be here live because we're keeping track of everything. And Lisa, did you use the randomizer to pick one?
I did. Yes, I did. So the first Sculpey prize is going to Cecilia Reg.
Yay,
Yay,
I
Cecilia.
think I said that right. I hope I said that right. But
I think so. That's what it looks like when I saw her registration.
yeah. So congratulations, Celia. Yay.
Yes. Yes. And we will get Sculpey the names of the winners next week when I get back home. And thank Sculpey so much for sponsoring the event and having Sydney do this wonderful presentation, because your work is stunning, Sydney.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Beautiful.
like I said, I'm queen of stupid simple. So I just have fun with it.
Well, everybody's saying that you did a great job.
Yes.
And
It doesn't look simple, I'll tell you that.
I know. Well, that's the wonderful thing about polymer clay. People are just astonished at how you do things. You know, they're like, "Oh my God, how did you make that? That looks like it's metal. That looks like it's this." And it's like, "Oh, it is so easy."
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
those are the best projects.
That's right.
You do beautiful work with clay.
Thank you.
We want to remind everybody to come back in about 15 minutes. Eileen Hall will be doing her presentation.
Yep.
And we will continue on the day. Thank you so much, Sydney.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. We'll see you in a few.